Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Dr. Cornel West, independent candidate for president, has been raising hell in Chicago this week outside the DNC, has had some people approach him too, which we'll get to. But I want to start, to me, the biggest issue right now is what is being hidden inside the DNC. We know there was a sit-in last night by Palestinian-Americans, members of the uncommitted movement, because they have basically been shut out. They are not being allowed to have a speaker on the main stage. We know that a family of an Israeli hostage spoke on stage, but that same exposure, that same opportunity to speak was not offered by the DNC or the Harris campaign to a Palestinian-American, a doctor who has seen the disaster, the death in Gaza, or the uncommitted movement. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar came out. Let's show that real quick. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar came out to the protesters. Congresswoman Summer Lee came out to the protesters sitting in. AOC FaceTimed.
I think it is critically important for us to send this message of shared humanity, and that the request isn't that large. It's not. It's important to emphasize that this is not even in any way an irrational thing to ask for. It's a basic thing to ask for.
I don't know why she FaceTimed rather than be there, but that's a different story. But could you talk about, for a party talking about freedom, that's a big theme. They don't seem to want to give Palestinian voices any freedom to just share stories and make a case for an immediate ceasefire.
Well, brother, I tell you, though, I salute you, brother, and I want to push your text, that magnificent work on Flint. There's a direct connection between what you're writing about in Flint and trying to cover up the suffering here in the United States. They won't say a word about Cop City. They won't say a word about mass incarceration. They won't say a word about poverty. 40% of Black and brown children living in poverty, the richest nation in the history of the world. The Democratic Party is revealing itself, even in this moment of frenzy, that's just so hypocritical, shot through with so much mendacity that's hiding criminality. And the very fact that you got a genocide going on. You got over 14,000 Palestinian children, let alone innocent men and women, who have been murdered. And they act as if that's normal and natural. They act as if it's business as usual. That is morally bankrupt, my brother. It really is. And we have to call it for what it is. And
I don't know if you saw, but some of the delegates, some of the big party people, as they were walking out of the convention, they walked past the protesters doing the sit-in, and they literally closed their ears and expressed kind of disgust, and just walked right past them.
The blood of these children is on your hands. 13 years old. Sama Abulle.
Say it again. Say it again. Mock them again. Mock the children again. Do it again. Do it again.
18 years old. 18 years old. Yusuf Hassan. 8 years old. Turn around and join the uncommitted delegates in the protest.
It reminds me in some ways of the Democratic Party in the 1930s and 40s. They had these great gatherings, wouldn't say a word about Jim Crow, wouldn't say a word about lynching. The very suffering that was taking place was the very thing that they were holding at arm's length and proceeding as if they were on the road to freedom and liberty and democracy, so that it just more and more rips the veil off of what is operating in the Democratic Party, which is this organized greed and this thoroughgoing indifference, be they brothers and sisters in Flint, be they on the south side of Chicago who are poor, be they precious Palestinians undergoing genocide. We haven't even got to Haiti and Sudan and Congo yet. We don't have time for a global analysis here. But it's just sad to see both human beings as well as an imperial empire undergoing such corrosion and corruption. You can see a rot at the very center of it. It's the thing that Martin King talked about when he said he was living in such a sick society that talked about how wonderful it's freedom for them dropping bombs on Vietnamese babies, though, brother.
Mm. And tell us about this week, because I reported yesterday that there was some, let's say, higher up folks in the Democratic Party that wanted to have some conversations with you, specifically about getting you to drop out. We know by all reports, RFK Jr. Is about to drop out, possibly endorse Donald Trump. And there were people that approached you asking you to drop out. What were, the offers that they made and your response?
Well, I mean, a number of them reached out and just saying, I need to get on the bandwagon. This is a historic moment, especially a Black moment. Have a Black sister, Asian sister move to the head of an empire undergoing deep spiritual decay and moral decadence and deterioration. And then with some religious leaders have reached out saying, are you sure that you're building on the legacy of Martin King and the great Rabbi Heschel and Edward Said and others? And I told them, I said, you all just talking to the wrong brother. You can offer resources, a position, or what have you. That's not what I'm all about. That's not the game I play. That's not my conception of what I'm here for, to bear witness and be a witness and try to hold on to some integrity and honesty. Because what has happened, though, brother, I mean, the toxicity in the party is so pervasive that we see the superficial glitz and the blitz, but at the center of it is just money, 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 status, and 62% of fellow citizens living paycheck to paycheck. Hardly any acknowledgement of it. Wealth inequality, hardly any acknowledgement of it. Police still brutalizing and murdering, mass incarceration, the largest prison system in the history of the modern world. Can't say a word about it. Homelessness, especially for Black folk, we 12% of the population, got 45% of the homeless. LA is even worse. LA is even worse. So that level of social misery and suffering is hidden and concealed in the same way. Again, I keep coming back to Flint, because Flint in so many ways is a microcosm of it. And people say, well, Brother West, you're helping fascism. Brother West, you're supporting Trump. Please, you don't fight fascism, all of its lies and crimes, with more lies and crimes, and say, I'm the better option. Because sooner or later, the fascism will take over. If you don't get at the roots of it, and Democratic Party policies, we know, with this neoliberal class wars against poor and working people, push people in situations where they're more right to follow gangster fascists like Trump. And if you don't get at their situation, their plight, their predicament, and there's no alternative to a rotting Democratic Party, then fascism, yes, fascism will triumph in the end. And I mean, I don't know what Brother RFK Jr. is doing. I mean, good God Almighty. He's bouncing back and forth, making deals. I guess for him, it's all about making deals rather than bearing witness.
And can you specify, if you can, you mentioned offering positions, resources. Were you offered a position in the Harris administration? Any financial incentives to drop out?
Oh, I mean, there was definitely various kind of offers. I won't go into the concrete details of it. I really won't, because I don't even want to make that the focus.
Well, let's just say they did not offer you the janitor's position. They offered you something relatively high up.
Well, I don't think it was that high up, because believe me, brother, the highest position in the empire that can't say a word about genocide, for me, it's just a place in Dante's Inferno, man. And that's the lowest litmus test of morality, to oppose genocide. And when you deny genocide, when you actually enable genocide, cannot be the only option to fascism.
Right. Did they just one more on this? Did they
Sure.
offer you? Did they offer you a cabinet position, a lower position, and offer to pay off any of your campaign debt?
Well, they offered serious substantive conversation about all of those that could lead toward some real
Gotcha.
possible. You know what I mean?
And it's also interesting because you mentioned those religious leaders invoking Martin Luther King, but maybe they should look up Martin Luther King because he would have been outside with those protesters, ceasefire protesters sitting in. He was ardently against Vietnam.
Well, you think that, I mean, LBJ actually responded to the Black freedom movement with civil rights acts and voting right acts and open housing acts with anti-poverty programs, and areas responding to both trade union movement as well as just left movements as a whole. So those were very significant. So for Martin to break from that particular president, see, that's qualitatively different than breaking from Biden or Harris. I mean, good God Almighty. And you see all the lies that they're telling about Biden, like he was the greatest president, the most pro-working class president with our excellent economy. And you say, my God, how could anybody credibly make that kind of statement? There was some significant legislation he was able to push through and bipartisan, but in terms of pushing for World War III, in terms of enabling genocide, the architect of a crime against humanity called mass incarceration, Glass-Steagall. We can go on and on and on with Biden, and now people want to put him on Mount Rushmore. You can see the level of lies that the Democratic Party is willing to tell in order to make their grab for power. And if that's all we have, we're in deep trouble, man.
And could you talk about, because obviously you are getting the heat, not just from, establishment Democrats, but even some progressives who are trying to push you, they love you, but they feel you're going to enable Trump. And to them, stopping Trump is more important than ending this neoliberalism. What's the difference for you? Because in 2020, you decided, I'm going to hold my nose, vote for Biden, and encouraged others. But then 4 years later, it's obviously you've made a different calculation. Why now do you feel like Trump is less of a threat? And how do you answer people who challenge you that this is the man talking about, joking about being a dictator, weaponizing the Department of Justice, mass deportations, and you could potentially enable that if a couple thousand votes go to you in Michigan and elsewhere?
Well, one, whatever votes go to me were not necessarily votes that would go to Harris. I mean, that we got to keep that very, very clear. Most of the people who vote for me would never have anything to do with Harris anymore, anything to do with the Democratic Party anymore. What the Democratic Party needs to do is have a Socratic moment, examine itself, and try to shift policies in such a way that they speak to some of the issues that we're talking about. It seems to be structurally unable to do that, given the role of big money and big military, and given the kind of illusions that it lives in. But what I would say is that each and every citizen needs to critically reflect and make their choice and vote. And I make my case. Harris makes a case. Trump makes a case. Stein makes a case. Claudia de la Cruz makes a case. Other socialist parties and libertarian parties make a case, and the citizens vote.
Right.
Making sure they have choices available. That's bottom line.
And, I'm curious what you think, because the Democratic Party, they are, and their media accomplices, in my view, are frantically calling you, Jill Stein, RFK spoilers, pushing you to get out. But it seems to me they're causing this because they won't allow a fair primary. I mean, I assume you might have considered running in the Democratic primary if they didn't do what they did to Bernie 2 times. You saw it up close. But as I tell people, don't think just running third party is any less rigged. I mean, they just challenged you in Michigan and temporarily got you off the ballot. I know you're going to court against that over, technical issues. They've been fighting you with their army of lawyers, the Democratic Party, to get you off ballots elsewhere. So their big theme is democracy. Yet you, Jill Stein, even RFK, all they are doing is trying to stop people from having more choices.
And you're absolutely right. You saw it internally in terms of no primary. Sister Mary Ann and others hardly had a chance. Then it becomes a third party and the various legal teams coming at us tooth and nail, though, brother. I mean, I'm getting all letters from lawyers, me, my wife, beloved wife, Anahita, we getting all these letters coming at us. Some of it's personally targeted in terms of a lawsuit. Some of it's against the parties, our party, Justice for All. And yet we're on the move, man. You know, we're going to be on a good 45 states through the combination of Justice for All party and these marvelous small parties. You know the story, the United Citizens Party, Black Party in South Carolina, that Clyburn himself founded in '69 when he was a rebel and an insurgent. The Aurora Party in Alaska, salute them. Progressive Party in Oregon, Unity Party in Colorado, Natural Law Party that has been so open to us in Florida and Mississippi. I can go on. I don't want to name all of them, but when you add those plus our Justice for All, plus the various write-in petitions that we've been working on, that we're still going to provide a choice, provide a choice for those who believe that there ought to be some room for truth. The condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak. Some room for justice that has to do with poor and working people. But also, Brother Jordan, we're bearing witness for our brothers and sisters in the global South, because their destiny is inextricably interwoven with our destiny. That when you're looking at an empire that's like a bully in a china shop, you've got to be able to make your voice, your vision, your solidarity efforts connected to the wretched of the earth all around the world. And also to send a message to the younger generation. You all don't have to sell out. You all don't have to give up and simply accommodate yourself to the rot in the two-party system.
Absolutely. You know, I don't know if you saw, I was shocked when I saw this last night. Chris Cuomo used to be a CNN anchor, now is at News Nation. He was on the floor at the Democratic National Convention, and he said, basically said, let me pull you in on a little secret. All these good vibes and all, you know, they're talking about, the Democrats are talking, we're going to go after corporations, we're going to go after price gouging. He then told his cameraman, can you look up? All these boxes are donors up in the top of the arena. And these same Democrats and all politicians, not just Democrats, there's a conflict because those are the people funding this, and they're not going to regulate those people.
These are the men and the women that go back to their constituencies and their communities, and they fight. They take time from their jobs. They take time from their families. Republicans and Democrats alike, that's what they do. They need to charge these people up. They need to be able to get them on board. But there's another reality that is literally looking down on them. Greg, look at the ring of sweets, okay? This is not unique to Democrats. There is a game of money. When people talk about uniparty, we are strangled by the money reality in our politics. Those suites start at 500 grand. You think there's like a teacher group up in there? You think it's like the Cub Scouts of Columbia County, South Carolina, that's up in those boxes? Some of them are lobbies and good things. The media boxes, you think they're free? Why do you think I'm on the floor? News Nation is not a broke company. Nexstar is a massive organization. We are corporate media. We don't have one of those boxes because that's the game. You pay to play. Those boxes are filled with the same people that they say they're going to regulate. They are literally looking down on the faithful and being told, yeah, we're going to break down on them. We're going to make them pay their share. They paid $500, $700, $1 million, $1.5 million to have those seats. They get hotel suites that are probably gifted to the party. And the same thing is true at the Republican side. And they're going to take them down. They're going to change how it is. They are looking down from on high at the people who make the difference in their communities. And that is the reality of politics.
I had never seen that on corporate media. I don't think he would have been allowed to say that on CNN. But credit to him, it was truth. But I look at these conventions. I covered the RNC in person, the DNC in person, most of these political campaigns. it just seems to be a lot of, hundreds of millions of dollars in political branding and theater. But at the end of the day, as he pointed, those donors are paying $500,000 per box. And I don't think they're paying unless they're getting something in return. And you don't hear that in the coverage on CNN, MSNBC. Do you think that whether it's the DNC, RNC, political elections, campaigning, the system in general, most people don't know that?
That's true. You know, my dear brother, the great Glenn Ford, Glenn used to say that it's professional wrestling at a low grade level where the decisions have already been made. The big money people are invisible behind the scenes, but having tremendous impact. And that's why I salute yourself, brother Tim Black, Sister Sabby, Amy. I'm talking about those few truth tellers in a corrupt media system trying to tell the truth against the grain, very limited resources, just like our campaign, broke as the 10 Commandments financially, right? But still moving on step by step by step. Brother Tavis Smiley and the others who are trying to hold on to some legacy of the journalists who told the truth, from T. Thomas Fortune and Ida B. Wells Barnett to my old brother I.F. Stone, who I used to break bread with many years, show you how old I am. But he was a truth teller in the context of journalism. But this is what happens in an empire. Every site and every sphere is saturated with money. It's saturated with manipulation and transaction, as my brother Clifton West would say. And when you have wholesale transactions, everybody's for sale, everything is for sale. How does truth and justice and love ever gain traction? And that's been the question of my campaign, and that's precisely why I'm running. Some people are talking about, oh, why is West still running? I've said why I'm running. We're trying to make sure that we tell certain truths. We're still shooting for the election, but we're shooting for the cause. We're going to have the United Front after that Brother Deruba and Brother Kalonji and others talked about, whoever wins. And then more importantly, in some ways, it's a matter of what kind of human being you and I want to be, though, man. Do we want to just give up and cave in to lies and crimes? I will never in a million years sell out my precious Palestinian brothers and sisters. And I will never sell out Black poor and white poor and brown poor. And that if I were there in the 30s, I would be with the socialists and communists, wouldn't be selling out the workers and Black folk under Jim Crow, wouldn't sell out the Jews under Hitler, wouldn't sell out the colonized under the European empires. What kind of human beings are we going to be? We're not here that long, Brother Jordan.
If probably not the case, but if President Biden saw this or Vice President Harris saw this, if they immediately pledged or stopped funding Israel's assault on Gaza, stopped providing the weapons, stopped supporting Netanyahu, would you consider dropping out if that was the case, or that's not your main issue?
No, I mean, the thing is, it's not just one issue for me. I mean, the war crimes are baked into the U.S. foreign policy. See, they'd have to just acknowledge that they're war criminals and they've enabled these war crimes. But I also got the issues of poverty at home. I got the issues of police at home. I got the issues of working people still marginalized at home. I've got the issue of wealth inequality at home, you see. So that for me, and that's a little different. I was so glad to be with my dear brothers and sisters that abandoned Biden, now abandoned Harris press conference that you were kind enough to actually one of the few to cover the whole thing. But for me, even if they came through and pulled the plug and defunded Israel, that's very important. I want to call it the end of their occupation. I want, in fact, a social arrangement in which precious Palestinians and precious Jews can live lives of decency and dignity and have their own forms of self-determination, be it by national secular state or whatever they come up with. But I'm not a two-state solution kind of brother. I think that's long gone. But we won't go into that right now.
Yeah.
But in the end, without any kind of self-righteousness, because I'm a cracked vessel, It's a matter of trying to keep some moral compass, some kind of spiritual witness that has to do with solidarity with the least of these. And, even biblically speaking, when Jesus says, inasmuch as what you do unto me, the poor, the prisoners, the colonized, the subjugated, what you do unto them, you do unto me. Democratic Party is inasmuch as you do unto the corporate elites,
Right.
Wall Street, and then talk about the middle class and come up with a opportunity economy. Oh, I see. Poor folks still in afterthoughts. No sense of emergency there for the poor people's conditions. No, it's an afterthought. I have no patience for that, my brother.
My last question, just so the audience knows, right now you're on 16 ballots, might be 17 if you win a court challenge in Michigan.
That's right.
You're also on the ballot in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, so key swing states. I know you've said you are shooting for between 30 and 40 state ballots, but broader picture, what's your message to the left, progressives, working class people? You've seen it and you've felt it in this kind of 3-year Biden era, the post-Bernie era. The left has kind of been split, a lot of ill will, people fighting with each other, people going on their own little islands. But at the end of the day, I'll be honest, it looks like it'll either be Trump or Harris. So where do you feel the left has to go from here? I mean, you've been fighting for 40, 50 years on so many issues, but what's your message to people watching? Because a lot of people, rightly so, are tired, frustrated, dejected, and it's hard to keep staying out there and fighting when it just seems like dead ends at every corner.
But brother, I've been a black man in America for 71 years. And often it looked like it's pharaohs on all sides of the bloody Red Sea. Everywhere you turn, some of them are white, some of them are black. Most of them are white, but some of them black, some of them brown, some of them are women, and so on. And we just have to remain fired up. And the only way you remain fired up is stay in the fire struggle. Keep the love of the people going. Keep the truth-telling going. And when you're down and out, acknowledge you're down and out. We can't live in denial, just like we don't want the empire living in denial. And when you're down and out, fall back on your friends, fall back on the music, fall back on stories and narratives, fall back on the memories of those who came before, and re-engage. And as you know, I always say, brother, you go down, swing in with a smile and some style. That's all we got, brother. That's all we got, man. But I salute you, though, brother. I really do.
Thank you very much. And also thank you for mentioning my book. As you know, on these issues like a community like Flint being poisoned and then the government leaving them to die and covering it up. Unfortunately, the media doesn't seem to care about those issues. So I appreciate you, your kind words about my book and my work, and keep it going.
Just telling the truth about you, just like trying to tell the truth about the empire too, though, brother. Stay strong, though, man. Indeed.
Stay strong, too. Thank you.
Appreciate you, man.